Hi guys. This video is primarily for my own students. I think it will apply to everyone, but I'm mainly aiming this at my own students, whether that be my students who train with me from videos or train with me directly. Hello. Oh, quick, you better get it, Clara. Good girl. Make sure you close the door, okay? Good girl. Where was I? Yeah, mainly aimed at my own students. And the topic I'd like to talk to you about is stop trying to advance in your training. What I'm going to be talking about here, I'm actually on, when is it? On Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 13th of August, I'm doing a full online live workshop on this particular subject and how it relates to the Yang Luchan Taiji form, okay? So the principles, of course, will apply to any training that you're doing, but I'll be mainly focusing on the Taiji form. So if you like what I'm talking about in this particular video, you think it will help you, have a look in the description below. You'll see the link there and you can get onto this online workshop. It's going to air live on the 13th of August at 2 p.m. That's 2 p.m. Brisbane, Australia time, my time. So work out what time that is for you, depending on where you are. However, it will still then be available till the end of the month, okay, till the end of August. So even if you can't catch it live, you can stream it whenever you want. So once you've purchased the lesson, you can stream that as many times as you want till the end of August. And I highly, highly recommend all of my students to get onto this workshop if you practice Yang Luchan's form. So the main concept of what I want to talk to you here is, like I just said, stop trying to advance your form. Or really, I should say, try and advance your form, but do it correctly. Most people think by adding more stuff to their form, meaning, okay, we do the first move like this. Yeah, I got that. What's next? Okay, I've got to shift the weight. Okay. What's next? I've got to turn the waist, do I? Yeah. Okay, what's next? Left hand leads. Great. Okay, I can do that. What's next? Squeeze on the side and oh, okay, yeah, I can do that. Okay.
Papa?
Yes?
Mama said.
So, for example, as a beginner, a total beginner, you're learning the form for the very first time. You lift your hands up, do a bit of yin and yang, maybe time it in with your breath. You're not going to be feeling much when you first start because you're just moving your arms about. It takes time to actually generate the Qigong effect of any practice that you're doing. So the sensation of this feels like, yeah, what? Nothing's really happening. And then if you add all that extra stuff and you start compressing and shifting the weight and left hand leading and all that stuff I said before, you start trying to do all this stuff, you think, oh, that's cooler. That's much cooler. Yeah, I feel like I'm learning something now. I feel like I'm doing something because there's more happening. But actually, you're stunting your growth completely because attempting to develop a Qigong effect whilst you're practicing with all that stuff happening is almost never going to happen. It's the simple movements which will get the Qigong activated, the most simple way of doing your form. I just had a massive breakthrough with one of my students. And he asked me we started doing classes together and he started practicing through the Luchan form and we've done it for the last year or so and we've corrected. All that was asked at the beginning, just correct the mistakes. So I was like, okay, let's just correct the mistakes, okay? So if he's, I don't know, stepping a bit off that way or he's leaning over, whatever mistakes he may have been making, I corrected his mistakes. And by the end of it, it's like, yeah, your form is looking really nice now. It's, there's still a few mistakes there naturally, but it's more or less looking good. Technically speaking, it's looking good. But it still didn't look like good Taiji. There still wasn't much internal Qigong stuff happening. And keep in mind, this guy's been practicing for 30 years. Okay? 30 years he's been practicing. But he went on to the advanced concepts way too soon. And it wasn't actually his fault, it was his teacher's fault. His teacher was giving him too much, way too many advanced techniques for his form. And so he thought, oh yeah, master told me to do this, so I'm going to do it. He didn't know he was supposed to stick to the basics because he was never told that. So anyway, the last class that I did with him, we finished the form and we thought, right, what can we do now? And I went, well, I was a bit, I don't know how he's going to take this because he's been practicing for so long. And usually someone who's been practicing that long, you tell them to go back to absolute basics and they're like, I don't need to do basics. They actually get annoyed because they shouldn't need to do basics anymore. So I thought, no, I'm going to tell him exactly what he needs. Whether he leaves me as a student or not, I'm going to tell him what he needs. So I said, right, okay. And I did the class with him in front of him. I said, right, stop doing everything that you know and just do exactly what I tell you to do. So he'd been doing these opening movements with, waist turns and spirals and weight shifts and opening and closing and all this other stuff. But everything he was doing, it was purely a physical movement. He was probably getting a bit of internal, but nothing to the level he should have been getting after 30 years of practice. So I stood there with him. I said, okay, all you're going to do is lift your palms up, time it with your breath, let the palms go yin, and the weight rocks a little bit into the balls of the feet. And then drop it back down again. Reverse that. And we just sat there for a little while, just doing that move at the most basic way possible. Just really focusing on getting the breath timed in with the movement, moving slower. And then we did the same thing with the second movement. And we only took it in the whole class, we only took it up to, I think we took it up to this third movement. And something amazing happened when we did that. After the first few reps, now this won't happen with a stark beginner because they've never done anything, but because he had been training for so long, after those first, maybe first 30 seconds or 60 seconds, the first time in my life I saw my student go, and he went totally internal. So he went from going, all this stuff happening, physical stuff, but nothing happening internally. And he went, like within 1 minute, he went, and he wasn't saying anything. He just kept doing the movements over and over again. And then eventually, I had stopped at this point, and he was still just doing it. And I just said, so how does that feel? And he couldn't actually speak properly because he was so in the zone. He went, this is, I can't remember his exact words now, but something to the effect of, this is totally different. This is heavy. It's full. It's strong but soft. And then eventually he came out of it and stopped, and he was just like, so that's what Taiji's supposed to feel like? That's what I've been missing all these years? And how did he get to that? By doing the most basic way of moving he could possibly do. Okay? Well, okay, let's call it the most basic that we in the WTBA teach. Some people go to the point of teaching, for example, change the hands, lift the shoulders, change the hands, drop the shoulders. I think that is too basic because there's no concept of flow. There's no concept of joints moving together. You've got to have something happening. So as an example, that first movement, we at least get the wrists and the shoulders timed together when we do that opening posture. Wrist and shoulders together, wrist and shoulders together. And then we just give a little bit of a rock of the weight, just so that the whole body is now moving. If you're literally just standing here like moving a finger, probably nothing's ever going to happen. But if you can move those fingers in conjunction with the shoulders and just the weight shift, and then time that in with your breath, that's the most basic that I would teach the form. If you need it more basic than that, it means you're trying to learn it too fast, okay? You should take a minimum of a year to learn the first third of the Taiji form. So this concept of wanting advanced stuff, this video is more of a message than a lesson. It's a plea. If you don't train with me directly, and you're learning from videos or any other instructors who might be trying to give you too much too soon and that kind of thing, please take a step back and really think where your training is heading. Ask me, write to me, how long you've been training, what you've been training, send me a video, we'll do a Skype class. Get some advice if you've been training a long time. Because if you want to get there, the fastest, most direct route to getting to the highest level of your Taiji practice, whether that be the martial stuff or the health stuff, same rule applies, is to go slow. If you add on something extra before that previous level is totally internalized into your body, you're just complicating things and you're slowing down your progress. See, people get itchy feet. They want to move on. They're like, oh, I don't want to just do the same thing constantly. The point of Taiji is to do the same thing, to repeat, to get literally, the classic example is just Qigong. You're not doing anything. You're just standing. But you have to do it for 20 minutes every morning and night for 5 years in the first part of your training. So the form should be no different than that. It should be considered like the standing Qigong. You don't get it right and then move on to the next step. You get it right, practice it for 6 months or 12 months, then move on to the next step. You should only be moving on to the next step once the previous step has become a totally no-mind state for you. You've achieved a no-mind state at that basic, or whichever step that you're at. So let's say I'm doing the first move and I'm a beginner and I've just started moving and I'm doing the most basic way that I'm learning. Okay? And I'm feeling nothing. I'm just standing there, like, looking around, thinking about what I'm going to do later, just doing physical movement. But I'm doing the physical movement perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. All right? Everything's timed, everything's structured right, everything's good. But nothing's happening internally. Don't move on. Do not add more to that posture. Because the more stuff you add to it, the less chance you're going to feel something internal. Feeling something internal, we need some form of movement to get something to happen. So this is about finding that balance, and this is what I've been looking at for the whole sort of 20 years or so that I've been practicing, and I don't know, 16, 17 years or something that I've been teaching, is trying to figure out how it's the best possible way to get people to understand the internal side of Taiji. Because without the internal side, I mean, you're still getting some pretty good physical exercise, but it's not the greatest exercise in the world without the internal component. You'd be better off doing something else if you negate the internal component. So once a certain level has become internalized, the teacher can see it, you'll feel like what was happening? It's like you've zoned out from whatever was happening. If you try to speak while you're doing it, you're like, what was I? You're a little bit out of sorts kind of thing, because you're just so, it's almost like you're asleep. It kind of feels like when you just wake up in the morning, you're like, hang on, where am I? What's happening? You feel half asleep because you've gone into that deep, deep meditative state. So I'm not going to go too much into that right now, but if you're my student, you can ask me questions, or your own teacher, ask them a question, and get some advice as to. Everyone will feel not necessarily the same thing, but if I can tell you all the things that I felt as far as the internal concepts, then maybe it'll give you an idea of what you're looking for, kind of thing. So you'll sort of know when it happens. But even as a teacher, I can usually watch someone and I can see whether something's happening internally or not. Like I said with that student that I was just talking about, as soon as he started doing this basic form, it's like his eyes just glazed and his expression kind of relaxed. He was no longer thinking about what was happening. His brain wasn't going, do this, squeeze this, roll that shoulder, push the weight. He wasn't thinking consciously about the movement anymore. He was just doing. And you can see it in the eyes if you know what to look for, if you've been doing it a long time yourself. So the best advice you can really get is to have your teacher, assuming your teacher is of a certain level, tell you when to move on. But remember, there are so many teachers out there. I've done it myself in the past before I gained this knowledge myself. My father's done it himself. Almost all teachers, but at least with myself, I've gone to that point where I've gone, you know what? Let's go back to here. And I've realized that I was giving people too much. So yeah, that's the main concept, is wait until a movement has internalized. You no longer have to think about it. If you still feel like, if you stop thinking about it and then all of a sudden you've realized, oh, hang on, I'm not shifting my weight anymore. Or you stop thinking about it and your hands start going out of time. So in the beginning, you have to think, right, time the hands, the shoulders, and the weight shift to the top. Now time those three things all the way back down. So they're all moving at the same time. Click, and they all finish. So they're starting and stopping together, those three components. And then, of course, adding the breath to time in with that movement. Once you don't have to think about that stuff anymore, and it just happens. If I do that opening move, I don't have to think. When my hands lift, the weight shifts. I don't consciously make that decision to shift the weight and shift the weight back. It just happens naturally. The yin and yang in the hands happens naturally. I would have to think to do this. I have to consciously try to make that happen because the correct movement has sunk into my muscle memory. So there's only one way to do it. And that's a really good point as well. So there's one thing as you want to get to that point where you're feeling the internalness of your postures happening. But also just from a pure physical level, you want it to be like when the person does it, they never do it wrong. Like sometimes I might see someone do a posture. Let's say they're doing a more difficult posture like brush knee twist step. And they'll do brush knee twist step. And if they're just sort of standing there, like maybe they're talking to someone while they're doing it, and they'll, and everything will go out of place. They'll fall over, they'll step wrong, they won't get the brush right. Several different mistakes. But if they're standing there going, now, I mean, while you're doing this posture, everything should be, and they're having a conversation, this kind of thing, but everything's still working correctly. The pelvis is still tucking, everything's structured right whilst having a conversation. There's just no element in their body that would want to be wrong because it's in their muscle memory. It's not in their brain. But if the only way you can get it right is to really focus, okay, time that. Lift the right hand, tuck the pelvis. I've got to focus so hard to not make a mistake that I am definitely not ready to move on and add more stuff. Because you can only think about a certain amount of things at any given moment. So if I have to think about just shift the weight, lift the arms, wrists and shoulders together. That's already 3 things. Include the breath, that's already 4 things to have to think about. So that most people can handle. But if you then start saying shift from side to side as well, turn your center, lead with the left hand, compress here, open and close. I didn't even count them. We've got close to 10 different things or so that you now have to think about. So we want to layer it in. When the basic level 1 set is in your muscle memory, you add 1 more thing. Okay? You don't just get it right and then move on. I am going to eventually, I'm in the process of restructuring our grading syllabus actually, so that any of our students will have a really clear-cut path to follow. So you'll be able to go, right, so you come to me and you do your first third. If you pass that grade, then you know it's your time to start looking at that second grade content, which might be, you know, adding some little elements to your form. Whereas if you are learning that first grade and you come and you don't pass that first grade, but you still choose to go on to the stuff which is in grade 2, well, there's nothing more I can do to help you. You're not taking your teacher's advice. You're trying to go through too fast, which is what that's doing. It's slowing you down. You're going to take far longer to get to the highest levels. So I'm going to really work in this concept into our grading syllabus. So you know, look, I passed that grade, so I'm sure I'm ready now to go on to that second part. So with regard to the online workshop that I'm going to be practicing with you on Saturday, I'm going to do it in 2 different parts, this one, and I'm going to cover the whole of the first part, I'm going to cover the whole Yang Luchan's form. The second part, maybe I'll do the whole thing, I don't know, or maybe I'll do the first third, I'll decide that later. But anyway, part 1, which is going to be on the 13th, I'm going to be covering technical correctness, okay? You need technical correctness first before you try to start getting the internal things to happen. So I'm going to be focusing on technical correctness. Now, I'm not going to teach you the whole form. This workshop is aimed at those people who already know the form, as in you know the framework, you know the basic shapes, the postures, you know. So you need to know at least, say, the first third in order to do this online workshop. I mean, you're welcome to do it, anyone, but to get the most out of it, if you don't know the form to some degree already, you're probably going to be a bit lost as to what's happening. Yeah, technical correctness. I'm going to be doing corrections. Correctness, corrections. Say that 10 times fast. So I'm not teaching you the form. I'm only going to be picking you up, or not picking you up because I can't see you in the lesson, of course, but I'm going to be explaining the things which I always see in different students. So chances are you'll be making some of those similar mistakes. I am not going to cover the common mistakes. I'm going to cover the not so common mistakes. Meaning, I'm not going to cover mistakes which are clearly stated in an instructional video. So something like the first step in the form. A very, very common mistake is to narrow the stance as you step instead of keeping it out wide. I'm not going to go over things like that because it's so clear on the video, and I say, or Dad says, every video that we have on Taiji, make sure you step forward straight and don't narrow. It's so clear that if you're still making that mistake, then me saying it again on an online class is not going to help you. You're just clearly not paying attention to your own body. The only way, if you're still making that mistake, you need to actually have a real life class where I can literally stand there and slap you in the leg every time you step in, because you need some sort of physical touch guidance as opposed to just another video telling you to stop making that same mistake. So the mistakes I'm going to be covering, I've been jotting them all down over the last few years with different students that I'm working with. The not so obvious mistakes, the more subtle things that aren't necessarily covered in the normal videos and so on. So we'll go through we're going to attempt to go through the whole form. It's a 4-hour workshop. If it's just corrections, I think we should be able to get through. I don't know. I always say that and then end up only getting through half of it. If I don't get through the whole thing, we'll do another one the following weekend, perhaps. So we'll finish it. So we'll do the part 2 of that concept, the technical corrections correctness. Technical correctness corrections. That's more correct. Then part 2 of this basics concept will be, right, we've done the previous workshop, so you've got your technical correctness now. I'm going to then start to talk to you about breath. We'll go through the whole form again in part 2 and start to think like, okay, so you don't need to think about where to put your foot now or where to put your hand. Is the hand in the center, the timing of the wrist? You don't need to think about those physical things anymore. So we can start to think about just literally thinking about the breath, only the breath. The movements happen naturally, but if you just think only about the breath, that's when you start to get the internal stuff to happen. So you've got to think about the physical movements first till they're in your muscle memory. Then stage 2 is you don't have to think about the movements anymore, so you can put your heart and soul into thinking and focusing on the breath. That is what brings the internal side of your movement into play. Okay, so yeah, I strongly advise any of my own students to attend these little sets of online workshops. The first one is already listed. You can purchase that. As I said, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that down in the description to click on it. Yeah, get onto it. But if you practice Yang Luchan's form, I believe this little set of movements that I'm going to be practicing, the online workshops, these set of online workshops, are going to really improve everyone's Yang Luchan game. So I hope to see you there. Good stuff, guys.